Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome viewers to Migration Stories, which is an edition of NAT Chat produced by Northern Access TV, where my name's Rich Micallef and I interview a guest about their migration story. And today I'm very pleased to have Jake Hapeta.
Thanks for having me, Richard. Pleasure to be here.
Fabulous. And you've been well known in Melbourne for a while, on a couple we'll find out later, but I was wondering, you were born in Aotearoa.
Aotearoa, yeah.
Okay. Everybody get that right. And New Zealand's North Island.
Yes.
So what was life like as a boy? What was your kind of environment?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We lived in a very small army base out of Palmerston North, sort of, which about an hour and a half north from Wellington, might be a little bit further than that.
Right.
On the Manawatu River, and then our army base was very small until the end of the Vietnam War, and the army coming back from Singapore, and it became very large. But when I was a kid growing up there, it was really small. So we had native bush surrounding us.
Wow.
We had the rivers. We just grew up kind of wild, climbing trees and running through the tops of trees to get to the river and stuff like that.
Fabulous. What was the family environment? Do you have like a big family?
No. I've got an older brother, a
Yeah.
smaller brother, my mother and my father.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Dad went overseas, we had a little sister.
Right.
The week before Dad left, our little sister was born.
Oh, how fabulous.
Yeah.
And, well, you know, when you grew up from being a boy and, you know, were a young man, what was happening in your life at that stage?
Well, Dad got sent overseas with the army.
That's right.
And he was sent over to Thailand to work for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But he got involved with building a road, essentially the CIA road into Laos.
Oh, wow.
To get the, well...
Did you travel over there with him?
No.
So you stayed home with Mum and...
Yeah, Dad went on his own. My mother had just given birth to my little sister the week before he left. So,
yeah.
He was sent there for a year, and got killed on his 11th month.
Oh my God.
So he never came home.
Oh,
it kind of devastated our family.
Yes. So I was shocked that probably you never really get over it. But
No,
it's
you
such
don't.
a shock when you were maybe 10, 11.
I was 13.
Wow.
But just when I was getting to know my father, actually. But might as well say, you know, I hadn't seen him for a year prior to his death, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was 12.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's so sad.
But yeah, it devastated our family. We were kicked out of our army home and put in the outskirts of Papakura, the town where we were living.
Even though he was working for the army?
Yeah, well, the rule is that when they die, the pay stops the minute they die.
Unbelievable. Wow, okay.
And we were sent to a housing commission house on the outskirts of Papakura. So.
Okay, so then as a teenager, you know, did you feel any anger or was there some confusion that came through in your life at that stage?
Absolutely. My mother didn't take it well. She became extremely violent.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So it's
about it though,
a lot about it.
Because I know now that you're a leader.
Yeah, over the years I did. Before I left New Zealand, I became involved in a massive land rights issue at Bastion Point. Up over the land of Auckland, the last remaining land of the Ngāti Whātua people. Yeah. And I learned a fair bit there during the last 8 months that I was there before we were all arrested.
Yeah. And that was one of the first instances of land rights
land occupation, yes. In occupying the land. There were other issues going on.
Occupied it for a while.
308 days the occupation went on through the winter. Oh, wow. Up on a hill above... well, about 5 miles
I've been there.
up the beach from Queen Street in Auckland.
All right.
Yeah, so it was a pretty cold place.
Mm-hmm. So how did that end up,
Well,
occupation?
the then Prime Minister Muldoon sent 500 police, a battalion of army,
Yeah.
a helicopter, 2 jets.
That's how they reacted,
and a gunship in the harbour. And arrested us all for willful trespass on Ngāti Whātua land.
Right.
Eventually, though, it was all returned and there was compensation given.
Yes.
But and Ngāti Whātua got a seat at the negotiating table.
Excellent.
So it was well worth it. It was an extremely difficult time. We lost people during that time up there. Grant Hawke's little daughter was,
Yes.
Joanne was killed in a fire in a tent.
Yes.
And, you know, it was a really emotional
Yeah, I
time,
heard
but
that.
it was a real growing up for Māori in our protest movement.
Identity,
Yeah, yeah.
Fabulous, Jake. Well, that really would have set you up to come to Australia and
Well,
assist
yeah.
with Indigenous people, but
Well, 9
well-
months after the arrest at Bastion Points, I came to Australia.
Oh, all
And
right.
on Waitangi Day in 1979.
Fabulous.
And I got a job the day after I arrived. I arrived at Tullamarine, caught the train to Morwell, walked into the Morwell pub, got a lift out to Loy Yang with some of the blokes having liquid lunch,
Right.
and scored a job that afternoon. And the boss took us into the pub at Terraugan and put us up in a room, and I made, I think it was $1,200 for 4 days' work in the first payday. So
Fabulous.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
Jake, we'll come back to your
Yep.
story upon arriving in
Okay.
Australia. We'll just go to a sponsorship break. Welcome back, viewers, and thank you. We're with Jake, and you were telling us that you came to Australia in '79.
Yeah,
And such a story before getting here.
yeah.
So you got work straight away.
Yeah, still
Right.
fixing at Loy Yang.
It was good building up money. What was it like being in a new country with a bit of income? And
Oh, it was terrific.
Yeah.
There was a large island Māori population
Already
working
here?
working at Loy Yang at the time, and they'd be working to get a rugby club together. So we all put our money together and bought the lease for the North Morwell Footy Club and turned it into a rugby club. So it was massive. It was terrific. And we all had money. We all had cars, and we were all working. That was until we got locked out in the 9-month lockout.
oh, right, that's
The
another
BLS
story.
stuff. That's another story. Yeah.
But well, actually, did that sort of finish that era in a way?
Oh no, just stayed around there for a
Stayed
bit.
there for a while.
Yeah,
So
for
you
a
know
while.
the East Gippsland country.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good.
pretty well, pretty well.
Right. So what happened then? Because I first met you and knew you as a musician
Yeah,
in Richmond, where
Yeah.
you set up the Kia Kaha.
yeah, and the
That was your
reggae club.
band,
Yeah.
but mainly you set up the reggae club.
Yeah, well, the reggae club was going, and we'd started that
I see.
at the Quest Centre, community
Yeah.
youth support scheme. I got a job at,
Mm.
and a couple of the girls started that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't me that started it, but I moved them into the Sydenham Hotel.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, the Sydenham Hotel.
Yeah.
Well, that became quite a legendary
Legendary hotel.
spot and venue.
It's gone now, by the way. Did you know?
I suppose so. And so also gone are the 250 people who used to come
Used
to
to go
gigs.
there. Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, tell us a bit about that era and what you were
Well,
doing in Melbourne, St Kilda area. And,
Well, I'd been in Australia for a couple of weeks, and they had the opening of Lionel Rose's hostel in Morwell. And I was going to the pub, and I spotted that there was a whole bunch of people over there.
yeah.
And I asked the barber what's going over there, and they said it was they're opening Lionel Rose's hostel. So I went over and introduced myself to Lionel,
Ah,
because you know it's a Māori way when you're on other people's country, you're manuhiri visitor,
okay.
and it's up to you to go to the tangata whenua, the people of that land,
Yes,
to introduce yourself and find out what your obligations were to live on their land.
I see.
So I introduced myself to Lionel. He gave me a handwritten copy of his book, The Jackson's Track. And
Yep.
he gave me a handwritten copy of his book, The Jackson's Track, and told me to read that and bring it back to him. I read it in a night, took it back the next day,
Wow.
and he said, well, your obligation is to take care of our people in our country. So I took that literally and became involved in Aboriginal issues.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow. So that is quite purposeful, that tradition.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, it's the correct way to...
Everyone should sort of do that, really.
Yeah, really, really.
So where did that lead you? I know that you got involved with, you know, the group in St Kilda,
Yeah.
homeless group.
Oh, the St Kilda Indigenous Men's Group.
Yeah.
But
And you
also,
founded, you actually started some of these groups. Which groups have you started?
well, not really. The groups that I got involved with were just kind of floundering along,
Oh, I see.
and it just came in and helped out with organising and getting funding and those sorts of, in that sort of area.
Gotcha.
But I met Robbie Thorpe, you know, and I got involved in issues. I went up to the march in '88, up to Sydney. Just over the last 30 years, I've been constantly involved in Aboriginal issues.
Yes, indeed.
And it still concerns me now. You know,
Yeah.
you know, the forced removal of people from country is
Yes, from the
is
communities up
genocidal
there.
in my book.
Yeah, Western Australia.
Yeah.
Because, you know, being close to the land and
Yeah.
you know, keeps
We're
people
living in
living.
culture. It's a direct
But-
assault on their culture.
But also, you know, there was a good fun thing happening with the music as
Yes.
well, and you were involved in the music
Well, I
scene,
inherited
as it were.
that from Joe Geyer,
Oh, okay then.
the man.
Who's a well-known
Yes,
Indigenous
beautiful
musician.
singer-songwriter,
Oh,
musician,
beautiful voice, yeah.
entertainer. But I met Des McKenna at Inverloch when I was fishing out of Inverloch
Oh yeah.
one weekend, and we got along like a house on fire. And he's a drummer from Hey Hey It's Saturday,
Oh right.
Animal. And he was playing in Joe's band here many years later, about 5-6 years later, after I'd finished working in community support schemes.
Yes.
And I got involved with the reggae club.
Yes.
Joey's band went up to the handing back of Uluru,
Yes.
and then Joe
I
went
remember
home.
that.
Yeah, Joe went home for a while, and the band came back, and they were looking for a singer. And I just started my band, so I was lucky enough to inherit most of the players from Joe's band,
Oh,
which
right.
was fantastic players. You know,
Excellent, Steve. Somebody and the singing side.
Barry
walks.
Dinick, yeah, Barry Dinick
All
on
right.
bass, Cambo on guitar, Des on drums,
Yep.
Chris Coyne on saxophone.
Yep.
Just beautiful musicians, every single one of them. So, and also I was singing with
Still well-known
Wendy
musicians
Seddington, singing with Wendy Seddington at the time too. So it was a real steep learning curve, but
Right.
I loved it. You know, it was a beautiful thing.
And what happened in your own family life? I mean, you've had children in,
I have
in
had children.
Australia?
Yeah, in Australia.
Okay.
I had a daughter in New Zealand
Uh-huh.
before I came here. But well, after the band stuff, I went to Palm Island and got off the drugs and the drinking,
Yes.
and
Well done.
got away from all of that.
Without any help, they didn't have, you know.
No, I went to the Piedric, Palm
Oh,
Island,
right, yeah.
Palm Island Aboriginal and Islander drug and
Oh,
alcohol
really?
rehab
Okay.
on Palm Island.
And
yeah.
they had some help.
Yes, and
Wow.
so I was away, you know, fishing and rowing a boat and running up the mountain every day, and just loved it.
And it works, look.
Yeah, well, I was sober there for 5 years
Yeah, wow.
and maintained my sobriety for 5 years because I promised Hector, my sponsor,
Yes.
that I would give it 5 years because I got horribly drunk after the 5 years.
One night, yeah.
But, you know, it was
But
good for
really,
me.
just
Yeah.
on that, after the 5 years, when you were normal drinking then, were you?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
We
normalised.
can all drink, but
Yeah.
just moderately.
Well, you know, I can still have my binges, but
Yeah,
but by and large, it's under control.
it's pretty normal.
Yeah. But
Fabulous,
then
man.
I had my children.
Yes.
I got married
Mm-hmm.
and had 2 boys, and then that broke up, and I sort of got back on the Terps a fair bit.
It
But-
can happen.
Yeah, but you know, that's 10 years ago now, and I've sort of got over that.
But Jake, when we come back after the break, you can tell our viewers how you're helping other people now and doing more now.
All right, cool as.
We'll be straight back after the break. Thank you. Welcome back, viewers. Can't wait to hear the next story from Jake. Thanks so much for sharing. It's already
Pleasure.
such a big story. The youth in New Zealand and coming here and landing on your feet, and
Yeah.
then, you know, growing up into maturity. And now, well, like me, we're adults,
Yes.
and you've helped people along the way.
Yeah.
And now I find that you're involved in starting housing cooperative movement and helping some single people there.
Well, it sort of came about because I moved into one, but I did an associate diploma of community work back at
Which tape?
at Victoria College in Prahran
Oh, all right then.
with John Wood.
Okay.
And
you did that.
Yeah, and and then I worked for community youth schemes with unemployed youth for many years. But I was living in Ballarat and I was kind of in a bit of a rut. I was just busking and not doing much apart from that. So I came back to St Kilda, walked back into the park. I hadn't been in it for years.
Yeah.
I met all the boys and they'd started this men's group, Indigenous men's group. So I got involved in that and became chairman of that. And through that, housing. I got offered housing, so I moved into the place I'm at now. And well, that place is the oldest block in Victoria, and it's a 3-storey walk-in concrete block with 24 units.
Yeah, how they used to build them in the 72 or whatever.
Yeah, way back. And it had no maintenance done on it for 30 years. Disgrace. It had 2-inch holes in all the walkways. Every 3 foot there was a 2-inch hole in the walkways, and 3 floors. Carpets was 60 years old. There was the garden that was in existence there was.
And this group was going to live there, yeah?
Well,
straight in.
there were I think 18 people there when I moved in. But they constantly complained about the conditions in the house. But as one out, as individuals. Yeah. So they were pretty much ignored. So we started a residents committee, put all of our issues down on paper and got our local member Martin Foley to take it to Parliament and ask it under Hansard. Under Hansard you're supposed to get an answer within 3 months. We never received an answer, but they came and started doing something about the building. Okay. It was cited for demolition at one stage. And it's kind of precarious what they've got to do with the building. Yeah. But under the new minister, who is Martin Foley, who's our local member,
there you go,
who has been involved in the place for over 15 years, realises that we're our community there and that we're viable and happening. So the sorts of things that the government did was come in, paint the houses, new carpet, new flooring, take care of the issues outside. We got a little bit of funding to build a garden, to fix up where the garden was, because that was full of those African dioides plants, which were homes to rats and mice, snails and slugs. Okay. So every time it rained, the place was literally covered in snails and slugs. So you couldn't not help but crunch snails on the way to your and then consequently crunch them into your floor unless you took your shoes off at the door.
Terrible.
But so conditions have changed dramatically in the last 5 years since we began that sort of stuff. The New South Wales housing minister I heard him saying on TV one night that there is no blocks in Australia that don't have shelter from the weather, and our block had none. It's the sun comes up in the east in the summertime and absolutely bakes the full face of the building.
Right.
With no insulation, no aircon. Inside, if it's a 40-degree day outside, it's 50 to 60 degrees inside those rooms, and it's just
no shade outside.
And no shade outside. So, after the loss of quite a few, because it's over 55 and over.
Yes, that's right.
The loss of quite a few people is when we really started ramping up the anger levels on it. Also, they had no respect for people when they did pass away.
Oh dear.
In those places. We had the last woman that lived there was Gladys Winters, lifetime member of Port Melbourne Footy Club. Wow. And she'd passed away and wasn't found for a few days. Yeah. And when they came and took her away, they put her in a body bag and dragged her down the concrete stairs by her feet. Also, when another beautiful man who was still alive when I moved in was George. He had cancer of the mouth, and he used to, I don't know, people around Port Melbourne would remember him. He'd ride around with one of those white masks on his face.
Yes.
So he didn't scare little children.
Oh.
But he used to sit down in the one tree in the corner underneath the shelters on this little form when it was hot. And I sat with him and he talked, and you know, he told me what he wanted to get done. And when he passed away, they just threw all of his belongings from the 3rd floor down onto the garden.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the way that the disgusting way in which we were treated as human beings.
Yeah.
To see that, to
I'm
know
so
that,
sorry that
all of
happened.
our stuff when we pass away is going to get thrown off the veranda.
And like everyone's over 55, so
Yeah.
everyone's thinking, God, you know.
Yeah, that's it. They call it hell's waiting room.
But things are much
Things
better
have
now.
changed. We've built a shelter. It's ongoing. We're building a green wall over the front.
Yeah.
A lot of it we've raised funds ourselves.
You've
but
changed all the plants and everything.
Yeah, you know, the Port Phillip Council came to the party a big way, funded us for lots of things.
Yeah.
But we've run out of that funding now. And we're
Yeah.
only halfway through. So
Yeah.
the minister has promised us an extra 20 grand to keep it going.
Okay.
Until he makes a decision on what he's going to actually do with that building. But he has the opportunity to make it world class.
Really?
World class public housing, because it's on that land, it's designated only for public housing. You know, government's selling out public housing to private companies in the guise of community housing, but he has the power to make it world's best practice.
So let's hope that gets done very quickly for you, Jake.
Well, we're hoping he gets in for another term so that he's got the time to do it.
Could happen. Thanks very much, Jake.
Thank you very
We've
much,
run
Richard.
out of time.
It's an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
See you next time on NAT Chat, Migration Stories, produced by Northern Access TV.
Performance poetry comes your way with Red Lobster every Monday night at 9:30. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om.
Welcome to Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name. And this week we're speaking to Lindsay McKenzie, who's the co-founder of Bethel Australia. In our last program, we established the spiritual base on which Lindsay has gone forward with Bethel Australia. In this program, we'll explore what that looks like. Much of your early beginning with this is a guy named Raul in Madrid. Mm-hmm. How did that grow from the experience with him? It expanded, didn't it? You added people on.
Yes, totally unexpected as far from our perspective, because it was just an agreement between Raul and myself for just an emergency measure, if you like, because he couldn't go to our normal channels of rehab. And it was a 2-week period that he was come into my house. And during that time, he started to really change. And he'd had an experience, a really deeply personal experience with God in that time. The 2 weeks are up, and I'm thinking, okay, my job's done here. But at the time, it didn't seem right for him to move on. Where is he going to move on to? Because I realise now, looking back, that bonding process is so important for any addict, especially in those early stages. And I thought, well, really, it's not changing my lifestyle too much, we can just adapt. I can adapt and make an exception. So I thought, well, okay, this is an exception, and it was, because we still continued to help men and women and take them to an already established rehab program that we trusted and had a lot of confidence in. But it was what was happening in Raoul was kind of the thing that I wasn't aware of, and after a while he was helping us to encourage other addicts to go and seek rehab. But they were saying, well, yeah, but where are you? He said, no, I'm in this guy's place. Well, can't I go there? Why do I have to go? Why can't I do what you did? And he kind of didn't have an answer for that. He said, no, it's just the way it is. But one day he came to me and he said, you know, I really want to take somebody else on, you know. And I thought, what does that mean? What's going on here? What does that look like? You know, fearing that he was, you know, two's company three's a crowd sort of thing.
That's right.
But he said, no, but I want to have direct, what you guys have done with me, I want that experience of helping others, really pouring myself into somebody else's life and helping them. And I put all kinds of objections why that wasn't a good idea, but Raoul was pretty insistent, and I thought, well, okay, I guess we can make another exception. So a guy called Paco came in. Now the reason he came in, because the rehab centre didn't want two brothers, and there was two brothers coming for help. They said, we'll take one but not the other. And they said, we won't take this other guy because we've had experience with that particular guy in the past and he's bad news. And Raoul said, he's the guy, come on. And he's elbowing me, and I'm saying, no. You know. Anyway, so Paco came in. And what I saw then, what was really in Raoul's heart, was just to have that experience of just sharing his life with another guy and helping him over this whole thing of addiction. Realizing that just taking the drugs off a person is only going to leave them with a vacuum unless they can give them something better than drugs, and that's what Jesus does when he comes into somebody's life. He just takes it to a whole new level. So after 3 months of these two kind of bonding and Raoul sharing his life with Paco began to really change and have an experience, his own experience with God. Right. Then they both came to me one day, and I could just see it written on their face. They said, you know, we've been thinking. I think, oh no, I just know what's going to happen here. He said, we'd like to take somebody else on. And then there was a pause, and they said, each. I'm thinking, no, this is not going to happen. No, this has really gone far beyond which I imagined. But you know, they were very insistent. And anyway, we got two guys very close to each other. One called Manolo, and the other one called Jose. And then these two, Paco and Raoul, took a guy each and just began to walk with them. Right. Now all this is going in the context of what do we do with these guys? How do we keep them busy? You know, what does a day look like? And we thought, and also they were eating a lot, and then we're going to feed these guys, and we had, you know, our money was limited. It was Raoul and Paco who got their heads together and said, well, you know, Paco he had building experience. Most addicts, we found out, hadn't worked really a genuine job, but here were two that had some kind of trade each, and Paco and Raoul was a plumber. So they said, well, we can teach these guys. Why don't we advertise that we will do home improvements or whatever, or home maintenance, and call ourselves whatever, and the money we get from that we'll just put it in a pool, and that'll cover some of the costs. So they did, and we did. We started off, of course, just with friends, and it grew from there. And there was a bit of an industry, very, very small at first, grew up. But these 5 guys were, and I was part of that too, just helping. We got a van donated to us, and we started doing house moves, just very simple house moves at the beginning. And one of them was a journalist in the Madrid daily newspaper, and he wrote up an article about us. But yeah, those sort of things happen, and then from 4, it got to 6, and by the end of 12 months, there were 8 of us in this flat.
And this is all built on your original experience when Rahul said that to you, and you said, "Why don't you come to my place?" And then it's all grown from there.
It all grew from there.
So this is very much there's the weaving of God, the weaving of essence through all of this, and the weaving of Christ himself.
Yes. And the whole aspect of faith, I mean, taking those steps, not realising what the whole picture is going to look like, but somehow it's a right thing to do.
Absolutely.
With doubts, you know, is this right? Am I hearing right? And just, and God was using that.
Yes. Thanks, Lindsay. And we'll go to a break. We're back in a moment.
Every new lion means 2 more hands. Join us, lions.org.au.
If you choose to drive when overtired,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose a power nap instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
There's a difference between forgetting something once and forgetting it many times. There's a difference between forgetfulness and dementia. Talk to someone who understands. Call the National Dementia Helpline on 1800 100 500.
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. I'm speaking today with Lindsay McKenzie, who's the co-founder of Betel Australia. And we've traced Betel Australia from its roots in Madrid in Spain, and some examples there. And I'd like to ask you, Lindsay, what then happened? It grew into other areas, didn't it?
Yes. See, part of this dynamic of having these addicts or ex-addicts, or in the process of leaving the whole addiction lifestyle, was the dynamics of community living. Now, not everybody gets on with everybody, and they're all living under one roof. And part of the development was learning to forgive each other. And now you're talking about hardened addicts who were used to dealing with issues by using violence and confrontation, and the law of the strongest. But now they're under one roof in a very small flat, and things like who watches what channel, and there was all sort of things like that going on. They had to deal with it. I remember one particular instance, if I can say this, where we had Manolo, who was he'd been a gang leader, control plus. And he didn't like what was being watched on the TV, and just turned it over what he wanted. And then I was in another room. I could hear what was going on. I walked in. I saw what obviously had happened, and I said to Manolo, "Go to your room, and we'll deal with this." And so it wasn't a thing to be done in front of everybody else. It was too confrontational. So I said, "Look, let's talk about this in your room." So I went into the room. I said, "Manolo, that was wrong what you did, because you should have at least talked about it or asked permission. And you need to go back and apologise, particularly to Paco." And he looked at me and said, "Apologise? No, I'm not going to apologise to him. How I dealt with this in the street was pulling out a knife. That's what I'll do with him. I'll pull out a knife on him.
Yes.
I said, well, you got a choice now. You know, you go back and apologise, or you leave. You pack up your things and go. I'm going to leave it to you, but it's going to happen soon. I went out of the room. A few minutes later, I heard him come out of the room, go into the lounge room. I don't know what's going to happen here, but he went over to Paco and he said, "I'm sorry!" Just like that. In that sort of not very gracious way.
Not very graciously, no.
And I thought, he could have done that better, but he did do it.
He did do it.
And he went back to his room. And I thought, it wasn't nice, but it was right what he did. So I went in to congratulate him. I thought I better encourage him. And he was on his bed looking at the wall. I thought, that's odd. I said, Manolo, I'm very proud of you, what you did. And he wasn't talking to me, and I was trying to catch his eye, but he kept trying to turn around. Why he was avoiding my stare was he was crying.
He was crying, yeah.
He didn't want me to see. He's a tough guy. And he said to me, finally looked at me, he said, "You know, that was the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life." But it was that kind of lessons that were being learned. It was harder to actually humble yourself and ask forgiveness, even though it could have been done in a better way, than actually pulling out a knife on somebody.
Yes.
And this was all being learned in the context of community.
And the context, unconditional love and lovingness, was that layered in there? Was that how this guy was able to connect with himself?
Because after all that, no one squashed him or made him rub his nose in it.
Right.
They received him back, and it was like there was a tough love. That's what I call it.
Yes.
It was tough. It was brutal, but it was love. There was they appreciated each other, even though they could have wanted to strangle each other. But dealing with it,
it's a massive challenge. Here you've got a house full of ex-gang members and heroin addicts.
Lots of anecdotes there.
Oh my word!
The neighbours really want us out of there.
Oh, my goodness. So there's a control factor there. Now, clearly you were exercising your own godliness, but examples of what you saw as being the real thread of Jesus' influence amongst those people. Any examples of that?
I think part of the whole what made it work was that I wasn't the one that they had to refer to all the time, and I learned very early in the piece that for this to work, I had to get behind Raul, and not be the one that everyone sort of saw as the leader. He was the leader, and I was there just to support him in that. That came into so many aspects of it. I'd say, look, no, you need to talk to Raul about that, and refer to him. Out of that developed, which I look back now and see that's been the very basis of rapid, why we have been able to grow so rapidly, is that we didn't design it, but that's the way that in our faith walk, if you like, that we knew that we had to take a step with doubts and not understanding it, but the whole process was that I suppose I describe as an upside down pyramid leadership style. And now there's a little anecdote there. In the middle of all that, my wife, who is now my wife, who was a co-worker at the time, she was dealing with single lady. We got engaged, and sort of I had planned a long sort of engagement, but she hadn't. Anyway, my wife sings, especially in those days, and someone offered to finance. We did cassettes in those days, not a CD, with just worship music that was new. So this was going to happen in Barcelona. We were in Madrid, and this is this community that's so dependent on me. So I thought, but she said, "Look, you're going to come with me." I said, "No, I'm needed here. Really am." And I could see that was going to be an issue for us. And I really struggled with that. But I thought, no, out of love for my fiance, I've got to trust Raul. I didn't think I could trust him for 2 weeks on his own. I mean, there were other people who had input, but 24/7, he was it. Anyway, I went up for this 2-week recording, came back, and as we were coming back, that's when this voice said, "Do not take back what you've handed over."
And one thing that does get handed over is time itself. So let's go to a break and we'll return to that fascinating subject. We'll be back in a moment.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe, warm and dry? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 OzHelp.
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Hallelujah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and I'm speaking with Lindsay McKenzie, who's the co-founder of Bettle Australia. And Lindsay, you were telling us about your unwillingness to go with your fiancée to Barcelona to do the taping. What was that about?
The need, looking back, it was probably my need to be in control, and in a leadership way, I mean. But looking back now, I can see that there was a whole model of leadership development that was happening, and we didn't really understand. I certainly didn't understand at the time what, and that was leading from underneath rather than on top.
Yes.
Now, coming back from that 2-week break that I took to be with my fiancée in this recording session was, I fully intended to go back to Madrid into this community of guys and carry on from where we left off. Except again, there was this sort of moment that I knew that there was this voice that I knew to trust, that was knowing now the voice of the Holy Spirit saying to me, "Don't you dare take back what you handed over," which I thought was a temporary thing. So I went back, well, what does this look like for me? I feel a bit useless in this, my whole identity was sort of being the one who gave the orders, who was in charge. But to assume a new identity of standing back. And the picture the Lord gave me was Jonathan in the Old Testament. Jonathan was the rightful heir, if you like, but he knew that he was the king's son, but he knew that David was actually going to be the king. And he understood that role. And it was like, as I was reading that, I thought, that's what the Lord wants me to understand, that my role is to be a kingmaker, if you like.
Yes.
Let them lead, but you stand back and you be the invisible, if you like, encourager, corrector when needed, but just be there as a support, but let them do the leading. And that was a whole new concept for me.
Yeah, that brings out a huge level of faith and trust.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It rolled on from there, didn't it?
It did. At the end of that year, we were eight, I said, and then we had to look for a house, and our neighbours were so glad that we made that decision to move out. They didn't like catching the lift up to the 8th floor with addicts with broken teeth and needle marks or ex-needle marks and tattoos. They were very frightened. So we got a house out in the country. And about that time was when I was planning on getting married. So it really did leave Raoul in charge, but he was understanding what was happening with me, and he understood that he had to do the same thing. Hand over leadership. Don't hang on to it. It's not your identity. That's not who you are. It's what they can be if they just need a bit of a help. Are you willing to trust somebody, and when they make a mistake, don't wrench it back off them, but pick up the pieces and help them pick up the pieces and say, okay, do it again. And so that became a leadership model without us realizing what we were doing for expansion. Now, within, that was the beginning of 86 when Raoul came in, and by the end of the following year, we had 3 different houses all set up, as well as a new women's house that my wife-to-be was working with the women, and she was doing a similar thing with them. And so we had a women's house and 2 men's houses, run by the addicts themselves. The same model of leading from underneath rather than sort of being the big king pin on top that everyone relates to.
And that was in Madrid?
That was in Madrid.
Yeah, right.
Now, we needed to relate to our families and the folk that were as part of our mission responsibility. So we actually left that, because I told you we're working with Elliot and Mary Tepper. And we left them. We left all that going. Went back to Australia. We were there for a year. We were here for a year. We came back into Madrid again, fully expecting to sort of come back in and take off where we left off, but the whole thing had gone on and developed and grown. There were 2 women's houses now, and there were 4 men's houses. And we began to feel, hey, we were part of the beginning of this. It doesn't seem like there's room for us anymore. We began to get a little bit touchy about it until just talking about it amongst ourselves and with Raoul there, and they were saying, we're getting phone calls from Barcelona, we're getting phone calls from Valencia. We just can't take all these people, and most of these guys don't want to leave their particular area anyway. Why don't we replicate this in another city? And all of a sudden the lights went on. We thought, hey, we don't need to be. It may be our need to feel sort of this identity thing, but we don't need to be. The thing's working better without us. So why don't we replicate this in Valencia? So my wife took that, and I took that as a challenge. We went to Valencia with our newborn baby and 2 guys, a van, and a whole lot of furniture, and we did a similar thing, looking for a house. This time we didn't live in the house because we felt that was important to have our own family space, but we took 2 guys down there, and they took 2 new guys with them, and a new community developed there in Valencia. Raoul eventually, because he married a New Zealander, did the same thing we did, came back, and he went and started up in Barcelona, and that became, now we're in 22 cities in Spain.
Good heavens. That's massive. So there's an internal driver there. What do you think that internal driver is?
Well, it's obviously, it's something that is beyond just a rehabilitation, what's the word, model or framework. There's a spiritual dynamic going on. And it sounds like it was all sort of hunky-dory and everything just kind of, everyone ran with it. But no, there were a lot of failures. There were some devastating betrayals, if you like. We're trusting guys with money and businesses that they often just would turn for their own benefits, and we had to deal with that, and the betrayal and the forgiveness side of it. And then in the middle of that, the AIDS health issue really hit us hard, and some of the people the ones that were dying were often our best leaders.
I'm going to have to ask you a question. Are you prepared to do another program?
Sure,
because
yeah.
this is so big
Happy.
that we really need to.
Happy.
Thank you very much for that, Lindsay. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be seeing you next week when we speak to Lindsay Mackenzie about further development of Bethel, Australia.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Here are the current weather readings for Melbourne, Geelong, Ballarat, Shepparton, Bendigo and Echuca on the MELfeed video weather wall. It also includes tomorrow's forecast and expected minimum temperatures in these areas overnight. This is the MELfeed video weather wall on a different sort of TV. MELfeed Video. Taking you to all of Melbourne's big events, it's 15 fabulous minutes, Mondays at 10. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
This is called The Embrace. In the backyard of the house I've inherited, unexploded mines rest among the dry grass, wait for careless footsteps, triggers for what I've forgotten, thought harmless. The blades reach up above the fence line, so I can't see how far back the tract goes. I have no rod to divine the lives buried beneath my feet, just an archaeologist's sadness and need to know. A sudden wind parts the grass curtains and there's a boy a few metres ahead. Then he's swallowed again. All that's left is his cracking voice, the stuck record echo. Our life spins and pushes into the background. My guess is that the field is littered with bodies, all my own, that I am afraid to embrace, but must. Manhood's a convoluted thing. The rope tight across the chest. Muffled cries hang like medals on thin air. Movement is painful. I wade out, press down a path through the overgrown mess, eyes straining to detect each threat, somehow needing cold metal on bare feet to hear the click, the release.
This first one is called Tasmanian Encounter, and it occasionally poetry comes to me where something just seems to get a hold of you and make you write something, and you don't really know where it comes from, and it sort of comes out of left field, and this is one of those. It's imagining that I was in an earlier century as part of a exploring social party in Tasmania. The day paused in the heavy bush, singing with all manner of insects. Even dead, the freak creature beguiled, the party took notes. Barred his hide, wet flank, long muscular twist, the colour of dust, and his spine is curved as the reaper's. His little eyes dark buttons, his little ears flat. He breathed not. Had my hand on him, felt his hard, hot sweat, put my finger in it, the wound where the bountyman's shot had entered. Sprung, he crouched up, shuddered, undead, made a sound like, ow! His snapped jaw swinging yawn, quick shut like knives. Took my little finger, sprayed the bracken red, and scarpered the thief, the swindler, while the party dropped their parasols and shouted, shaking me, "Carolyn, Carolyn, are you all right?"
You put your head down for 10 years. And when you lift it up, no one greets you. And though the sunsets are still young, and dawn is still done in the same box of colours, your eyes are reluctant to show you anything. And your clothes, unchanged for 10 years, are surprisingly fashionable, though in a slightly sinister way. You remember falling asleep, and now you're awake, the next is underway. Your life a figure in a run of numbers, big as a lottery win. You had put your head on the desk for a nap, your ear on a hardback second-hand copy of Metamorphosis. And now you've recovered. Your ideas retreat into corners like criminals, suddenly ashamed of themselves. You suspect a comedy and you want to write it.
Well, today is Hiroshima Day, 6th of August, and on Saturday is Nagasaki Day. And I'd like to begin by reading a poem called A Girl of Nagasaki. Subtitled 9th of August, 1945. It's in 4 parts. The moon is a wet cork. Rummage through your moon-fresh morning dream with no dark yearning, but preserve. Savour the clarity your rebirth frees. The moon is Japanese. 2. The sun must be God. My shadow stands frozen in the blizzard's beam, and daylight deafens. I drink the black lightning of momentary trees. The sun is on its knees. 3. The moon is a dry disk. Listen to the scrapings of a sun-spent gleam along the road of ash. Scratch with setting eyes the astronomy you feared. The moon has disappeared. 4. My soul is flapping in the Nagasaki breeze I ran through yesterday. 1,000 years ago, my ancestors flew into the noon. I have no need of these. I listen to the unforgetting moon. The moon is Japanese.
In a 5-year-old magazine, photographs of Bo Derek, all nipples, cheekbones, and skin-coloured skin. All this, the text tells me, at 43. It is a wonder, a miracle, a marvel. Does it mean Bo Derek will never grow old? That beauty can age gracefully? That Bo Derek is more beautiful now than she was in the cornfields with Dudley Moore? Or that this, 5 years ago, was the last season of her beauty? The see-through garment over her curves, her skin, is expensive, tasselled, almost a distraction from the body the photographer is compelled to focus on, but not too sharply. The text asks me to remember her, as well as to look at her now, then. The nakedness was the photographer's idea, while the reclining pose came naturally to her, and the beach was its own perfect setting. Nearly 50 now, she can look at those last beach shots, her beauty defying what defeats the rest of us. Next, I read a scientist's report that women imagine themselves to be less beautiful than they are, and men imagine themselves to be more handsome than they are.
Now on MELfeed Video, here are the latest Monday Tats Lotto results just drawn a short time ago under government supervision. All results shown are subject to confirmation. We hope that these numbers brought you a little bit of luck tonight. If not, there's always next week. Stay tuned to MELfeed Video for more great programs this evening.
To every child's development, an important message from the Australian Toy Association.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
For interesting and informative interviews, join us for NAT Chat Monday nights at 8. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, different sort of TV. Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
This one is set in the very joyful teenage years that I'm sure you've all had and loved. During my teenage years, I went through a few operations, so this is kind of after one of those. The poem is called Brace. Dropped at the end of the bed as a searing day fades, it rolls and pitches on its side, gazing back up at me. The two back-length metal tracks and a thick C-shaped belt which grips the hip bones are covered in a thin white padding, turning grey. Attached by two cloth straps with tiny teeth, a stomach-sized patch of foam. This corset holds a kind of love for me. My skin tender and pale, my lungs relieved to be free of this extra shell. I am trembling. Damp with sweat, the valleys of my body smell like hospital equipment. The brace smells of me. We cannot be so easily separated. Deep inside, blind to the world outside, some trembling creature panics, flaps its sticky wings against my chest. My bones ache with growth, reaching for another life. Night tucks its timeless sheet around me, rests me into dream. The walls dissolve as I float, drift high across the insoluble maze of suburban streets. In my bodiless self, it is not the height of summer. I am not at the mouth of puberty's tunnel, and this is the last procedure I will have to endure.
Well, this is a very timely poem called Splitism, which is about the theory that China talks about, where some individuals, or in this case the country like Tibet, decides they don't want to follow the main line of totalitarian China. Our crockery is decrepit. I buy new crockery. I stand on my toes in Kmart and reach for a cheap, plain white set on the top shelf, marked down, made in China. It has flaws in it, but it's beautiful. Flaws are at the heart of beauty. I like to watch and eat TV, exactly what was banned in childhood. Ah, the deep, simple pleasure of disobeying. On TV tonight, there's a secret documentary filmed undercover in Tibet. I hear the plate I'm eating off may have been made by forced labour in Tibet and labelled Made in China. I've also bought towels today. 2 creamy, 1 slate. 1 hand towel, the first I've ever owned. I suspect this is decadent, even if it came from Safeway. A woman is talking with the bottom of her face hidden. She's been sterilised without anaesthetic. She shows scars. If I could give her my hand towel, I would. It is slate, quite lovely. The hand towel was made in India. The Tibetan governor in exile is in Dharamsala in India. Thank you, India. A man talks about handcuffs. Apparently there are several kinds. One's for the thumbs. Some for the wrists that cut the wrists. For a picture of the Dalai Lama, they could hang you from the ceiling. Your hands would be cut off, and so you can stand on your toes. At just the right height, you can stand all night. When they release you, you aren't much chop at working. That's what one old man says. The interviewer went undercover for 3 months in Tibet. His face is very sweaty. How can I watch this bravery and the magnificent brilliance of Tibet, as brilliant as a mountain blood pheasant, red and green? I wish all of the governments of the world would miss the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. I wish no one would go at all. How can I afford my disobedient pleasure? I switch off the brilliant colours of my TV. Of course, it is made in China.
The Droplet. This one's dedicated to Anthony Lawrence. It was just after 2. I'd been up in bed expecting a particular poem, 2 a.m. I mean, but my eyes kept closing, and the sheet next to the elbow propping up my face next to the pillow, waiting for my head, nodding from moment to moment, closing its eyes, remained a proverbial blank, although it seemed to me such stock use of proverbial was widely overdone. Nevertheless, I kept on writing, and in no time at all was feeling fully awake. And if no major revelation dropped from the pencil that prolonged me in the night, as from the point of a quivering pipette a universe squeezes itself and elongates before the undetermined, breathtaking moment of transparent freefall, before the splash of dissolution, though I had written disillusion first, and you wonder what it's ever possible to learn between the emergence and the detachment and the plummeting and the re-immersion in the incalculable ocean, standing like a beaker, refracting light and bending a spoon on the bench behind it, but quietly, as if to bend that spoon with the world's and the water's most natural purpose, empty of boast, gimmick or gesture. So, if, as I was saying, no new light broke like a flash, a contact closing, a spark to startle the encroaching night, to blind or empower or startle, or ignite some indistinct epiphany, well, it was 1:30, and at least I could find myself reflecting on the sweetness of borrowed time.
Fabulous minutes every week. Meet the famous, the fortunate and the fashionable as Steve and Jacqueline take you to all the events around town. Not to be missed. It's fabulous 15 minutes you'll ever see.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened last time.
Oh, look, I can't believe they're not running in.
Trying.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you believe he works here with us?
But did you hear about what he did last week? Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, hang on, he's coming.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay, you got two.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, look at him. That guy's a freak.
Can you believe it? He won gold in the 100.
Legend.
Every minute.
Every hour.
Every mother and father.
Every sister and brother.
Every son and every daughter.
Everyone you see.
Everyone you cheer.
Everyone you watch. And everyone you hear.
Everyone you meet.
Everyone you know.
Everyone you love.
Everyone is affected.
Reach out and get connected.
Had enough of the bad news about carbon dioxide and climate change? Wood is one solution. Trees take CO2 from the air and store it in their wood. They're also renewable, unlike concrete and steel. But the wood you choose should be recycled or from certified plantations or forests. This helps protect areas of high conservation value. So next time you're building or buying something, make it wood and do your world some good.
This is called Secessionist, and I guess it's, on one level, it's about a conjoined twin, but it's really, I guess, about all sorts of conjoinedness that we have as people. We're often multiple. Yeah, secessionist. I feel a breath at my neck and wake. A dream only a stranger's brain could make jolts me back into my body. Who else roams these bones? The morning sun cannot melt him away. He throws back the sheets as I reach for the snooze, my brain a dead leg he drags through the day. How much can physiology explain? He puts on clothes I know don't suit us, eats the food I can't bear to taste, loops memories I'd rather lose. I'm allergic to the pills he takes that make us well. My thoughts fall from the tree he grows. Once I spoke up. He slapped me. I punched him in the guts. It hurt us both. On the surface, all is calm. Skin keeps us singular. In the gym, in a mantra of movement and sweat, tense men furtively scan me for sutures, questions crushed beneath their teeth. But every life is a hive of many energies. And tonight, as he slips into sleep, a molecular frequency keeps me awake, sharpening this knife.
This is Southern Cross. Welcomed, fired with love. Inside me, your come is a revolution. Like the Southern Cross, its silver trajectories blaze, setting me alight with mercurial shivers. This rush of light streams through my heaven in celebration of all that we are. And I can't help but come too. My darling, how dear you are to me, my precious lover.
I've got a son who's about to turn 16, and he doesn't like me reading this poem out, so I always check the audience to make sure he's not in the audience before I read it. My old son asked for a pay rise today. What does this mean? Secretly, is he working for me? Unknown to me, have I employed him? Casually, permanently, or on a short-term contract? He speaks to me as if I could be his employer. Everything's all right as long as the expected payments arrive. Then there's little need for contact until the next instalment. Am I now to negotiate payment to my son to take the love I give and ignore the cruelties I administer? Is that the work he does? When he asked for a pay rise, I had to ask him what he was being paid at present. And $5 a fortnight did seem a pittance. But then he was taking a good deal in benefits, I pointed out. And with an increase in wages, he might be given responsibilities beyond his ambitions. I notice he keeps in his bedroom drawer a collection of wallets, and his pig grows fat with coins. Telephone booths give up loose change to him, and gutters wash treasures up at his feet. What is the silver flash I see in his blue eyes? He talks to the bundled cat now, convincing it of something.
Possession. The boy catches sight of the blue balloon. He is standing in the courtyard of a museum. He watches the girl who possesses the balloon. She bounces it along the asphalt, rolls it on the grass, throws it into the air. The blue balloon fills the sky as it rises and dips. The boy is mesmerized by the balloon. He would like to possess one just like it. He knows he cannot approach the girl and take the balloon from her. He is too gentle. Or ask to borrow it. He is too shy. But from that moment he can think of nothing but the blue balloon. He returns inside the museum, circles the exhibits, antique toys and artifacts, illuminated manuscripts, quaint instruments of music, replicas of weapons, photographs of notorious battles, a model torture chamber, an ancient sarcophagus with the lid ajar. He studies these things with cursory interest, for his mind keeps returning to the blue balloon. He sits on a bench, pulls a pencil and pad from his satchel, tries to draw the balloon with and without the girl. He cannot quite capture the balloon's elusive perfection, and he cannot quite remember her face. Suddenly, the girl is alongside him, peering into the casket with the slanting lid. She cradles the blue balloon behind her. The boy could almost reach out and touch it. She wouldn't even notice, but this could spoil his delicious dream of the balloon, already swirling breathless in his imaginings, awaiting sleep.
Hi, coming up next is 15 Fabulous Minutes with Jacqueline and Steve, and then we go into Transports of Distant Delight in its new time slot of 10:30, and then we'll be closing up for the night at 10:45. And incidentally, if you're wondering what's happened to the CEC report on MELfeed.video, unfortunately, due to ongoing copyright issues, mainly with the inserts from Channel 9 in that show, we've had to stop broadcasting that show on MELfeed because it keeps getting flagged for copyright and it keeps shutting down our stream. So unfortunately, the CEC report is no longer broadcast on MELfeed.video, but if you want to see that program, you can go to cecaust.com.au, and they have all the episodes there week by week on YouTube, so you can watch the CEC report there. So unfortunately, we've had to drop that program, but you can still watch it online if you wish through the cecaust.com.au website. Anyway, that's all for now, and we'll see you again next week. Hopefully with a bit of a green screen effect. Hopefully we'll have it ready by next week, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Hi, coming up next.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to another episode of 15 Fabulous Minutes, and today's topic of discussion is the bane of our lives. That would have to be hair removal. One form of hair removal, of course, would be with the old trusty razor. Steve?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Oh, thanks.
Take it away.
That's fantastic. I just all cleaned up and forgot to shave this bit. But you know there's another way of removing hair.
What would that be, Steve?
Well, you're plucking and that's it. You grab the root and just rip it out.
And then, of course, there's waxing. Payback time, Steve.
I think it's time we talk to the professionals.
By Dr. Paul Spano, cosmetic laser physician. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, we've seen a number of ways of hair removal. There's waxing, plucking, shaving, and pulling hair out by the roots. Those are methods you wouldn't actually recommend then, Paul?
Well, they are alternatives, but laser hair removal is the state-of-the-art way to get rid of that unwanted body hair, Jackie.
So when did laser hair removal actually come into Australia?
Laser hair removal's been in Australia for 5 years now. It was discovered back in the late 60s when people removing tattoos noticed that the hair didn't grow back in the same area. You know, overseas in Germany and America, about 10 to 15 years it's been in development.
Is there any part of the body that can't be removed?
No, there isn't. No, anywhere you grow the hair, we can remove it.
So we're talking anywhere from in the ears, up the nose?
Yeah, up the nose gets a little sensitive. You can certainly do it in the ears, and well, the commonest areas are armpits, faces, and bikini lines and legs.
Now, if I were to get hair removed from any parts of my body, painful?
There's a mild stinging feeling.
There's a mild. This will hurt me more than it hurt you.
It's certainly not painful. The newest lasers, like the one we have in the room, has a cooling process which protects the skin and anaesthetises the skin, so it's a lot less painful than waxing and electrolysis, so the patients say.
So what would you compare the pain to, for example, just so we get a sense of, you know, the...
Everybody likens it to a rubber band flicking on the skin.
It's not too bad, isn't it?
No.
A bit kinky.
I guess so.
Well, Paul, they say no pain, no gain. So let's have a bit of a demonstration and see the magician at work. Choose a body part.
How about your armpit?
Go for it, because I haven't got any hair on my chest, so...
Well, Paul, I've done what you requested. I have shaved 2 days beforehand, which I believe this is the perfectly prepared armpit.
Yes, we like the hair just breaking the skin so that it's not too long and it'll work very well.
Take the pain factor away, let's give it a roll. Now this removes it permanently.
Yes, it will have permanent reduction in the hair.
How many goes?
The hair will reduce and thin right out, and that will be a permanent result after approximately 6 treatments in 1 year.
6. Love the goggles.
Incredible, nothing's forever.
Okay. Are you ready?
You ready?
Take it away.
Okay. Here we go.
Bye, hair.
Ready, set, go. Okay.
Is that it? You're not even jumping. Oh, the smell of singed hair.
Like burning flesh.
Exactly. Both armpits would take about 10, and that's all there is.
And how many hair follicles are there? This is so not painful. How many hair follicles are there under each armpit that you've got to get?
Well, this
have a good eye for detail.
This circle here, every time the laser flashes, every hair follicle within that 15mm circle is treated. That's why it only takes about a minute to do each one. The thicker the hair, the better the results.
And how much would that have cost per armpit?
Your armpits cost $150 each session. Yes.
And how many sessions?
Probably 5 or so in a year, depending on your skin colour.
Okay, what about a chest? How long does it take to do a chest?
A full man's chest will take about between 30 and 45 minutes. A full back would take about 45 minutes to an hour. Lower legs, 30 minutes. Upper legs, 45 minutes.
Moustache?
About 3.
Back to the lady.
What about facial things?
Other types of facial treatments. Well, to improve the skin, we can do facial peels with fruit acids and various things. There's a nifty little machine called a microdermabrasion machine, which is basically ultra-fine sandblasting of the skin. This is a microdermabrasion machine. Basically, it's ultra-fine sandblasting of the skin. We have new crystals that are in this cylinder here. They come down this clear tube, fly through the handpiece, which runs across the skin, thereby abrading the skin, and the used crystals get deposited into this canister here, and we dispose of them from there. So obviously there's no mixing of new and old crystals. Basically the machine has a crystal flow and a vacuum pump. So while the crystals are ultra-fining and smoothing the skin, the vacuum pump removes all the debris from the top of the skin and actually sucks out some of the blackheads and whiteheads and pimples, which sounds disgusting, but it works extremely well.
What kind of people do this sort of thing? Obviously with problem skin, or?
Any people with oily or acne or problem skin. As you can see, that the crystals get deposited on the skin, we smooth them over, and there's a suction. Can you feel that gentle suction just removing all the debris? And your skin will be a little bit red, perhaps for an hour or so afterwards, Steve, but it will feel incredibly smooth. And a lot of those blackheads, if we do a bit of work on your nose, will be a lot smaller.
What kind of results do you get from the end of this?
Well, people tend to have the treatments once a fortnight, and when they're satisfied that a lot of their blackheads have been removed and their skin's looking a lot better, or their acne and pimples have settled right down, then they'll go to having once a month treatments. And I think in essence, if we're looking at acne, we can speed up the acne healing process by about 50%. So instead of taking 3 months to improve someone's skin, with the microdermabrasion, we can do that in about a month and a half. The best way to avoid sun damage or photo-aging of your skin and development of all these little fine lines around here that...
I don't have fine lines.
Starting to get a couple there, Steve.
Get rid of them.
Okay. The best way to avoid that is to use a sunscreen and good home skincare. Is laser peeling or chemical peeling. Chemical peeling's a lot cheaper than laser peeling and has been around for 70 or 80 years and very, very good. Fruit acid, because it's derived from sugarcane juice and various other acids like citric acid, are derived from fruits and vegetables.
Stinging a little bit.
You'll feel a mild stinging.
Tingle.
And what this will do, your skin won't actually peel off. This will just smooth out and unblock your skin, freshen it all up and make it look nice and radiant.
Positively glowing.
How's it feeling?
Wet?
And just a little
tingly.
And just a little tingly. This is a fairly mild one that even some beauty therapists and nurses can do. But we do have much stronger concentrations, which is pretty much a doctor-only procedure.
Now, when would you get this as opposed to the other, like the dermabrasion treatment?
Well, that's a good question, because this is wonderful in conjunction with the microdermabrasion. The dermabrasion is like a mechanical way of smoothing the skin, whereas the fruit acid face washes and other acids are like a chemical way of smoothing the skin. And combined together or alternating, they work really well. if you just close your eyes now, lean forward a bit. Lean forward a little. Tilt your head forward a little bit, and I'll just spray the neutraliser on. Keep your eyes closed, and you can see the bubbles coming off the skin, which is evidence that the acid is being neutralised, and it's actually giving off CO2. So we just do that. It's quite wonderful and wet. Jackie, just wipe your skin there like that. There you go. You can open your eyes.
It tastes like salt.
It does taste a bit salty.
Hello, Steve. I feel beautiful. I feel like I'm glowing.
The beauty tips is getting the old lips done. I'm naturally big pouted here, so I don't need the collagen.
Okay, yes, we have things like collagen. There's a tube of collagen which can be injected into the lips. Along the lip line here, we can inject the collagen to plump up the lips. You can do the ridges just below your nose to give you that more of that pouted lip look. There's two types of lips. There's the European lip with a nice fine edge around it, or there's the American Julia Roberts California fat lip, which is another school of thought. I think most Australians like the nice edged.
How long does the collagen last for in a lip?
Collagen tends to last between 3 or 4 months.
Kissing, how does it affect your ability to kiss as a giver and a taker?
Well, a lot of people ask, will my partner be able to feel the collagen in their lips? The answer is essentially no. You're not allowed to kiss on the same day of the procedure, and for some people that's a bit of a problem, but no, you can't really feel the product in the lip. It's a very natural thing. We've got something called Botox, which is a fluid that we inject into the skin. It's a tiny little needle here, and we just place a couple of injections, 1, 2, 3, 4, there, and that will basically stop the muscle contractions in this area for about 3 months, so that you won't be frowning and wrinkling your skin.
Now, what kind of people do this?
A lot of people. I can tell people off many television programs and news announcers and even weather people, you can tell when they've had Botox, because when they try...
You've had it, so you can't do it at all.
Try and frown, they can't really, and they get some extra little muscle movements out here, but they don't get that wrinkling in the middle of their face that us normal people get.
So it's a basic way of stopping wrinkling. Can you do it around the eyes, anywhere around?
Botox is fantastic around the eyes for the crow's feet. So anyone who smiles and they wrinkle up their eyes and frown a lot, Botox takes about 5 minutes to do. A typical Botox session might cost you $250 to $300, and then there's no wrinkling and no frowning for about 3 to 4 months.
Great, just to have no expression at all. It's a fabulous idea. I think that's a good one.
That is
Can't smile.
That's actually a good point. You don't want to over Botox people. People like actors and actresses and even politicians who want to frown and do that sort of thing. They sometimes don't have Botox because they do like to animate their face.
Thanks very much, and I hope that's helped you out there as well. Any famous last words?
Well, I think the take-home message is, Jacqueline and Steve, that these procedures that we've talked about today are very accessible to the general public. It's not something just that movie stars and television people have. They're very cost-effective. I think people will be surprised at how affordable and effective these treatments are. And in terms of side effects, the ones that we've talked about today, people really do not to be afraid. This is not major reconstructive surgery. These are the things that are simple and safe that people can get done to enhance their appearance.
And Steve, can I tell you, simply stunning.
Oh, you look gorgeous. Your eyes, it's amazing.
That little sand abrasion there, fantastic.
Laces.
Although I have to say, Steve,
Yeah, what?
just something about that back hair.
The back hair.
Very attractive. I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Steve.
And we're here in Chapel Street enjoying one of the many freebies in Melbourne, and that's the of today's show.
That's right. We're going to show you what's free in Melbourne and how to do it. I won myself some free breakfasts here.
For two?
For two, absolutely. And that's one freebie. We're filling out all our competitions now. And another scam is go to restaurants, order just bread and water. Oh, thank you very much. That way you don't have to pay for later.
And if you play your cards right, thank you, you may never have to pay for a meal again and again.
You look kind of familiar.
I think you must be mistaken.
No. Turn the steering wheel the other way. No, you're going to hit the bin. Stop. You're going to hit the bin. Out again? Yeah, out again. No, a little bit left. Whoop. Okay, no. Two. Oh, my God. No, that's not going to do. No, turn the steering wheel the other way. What's that? I think you've done it. Okay, get out now.
There's always free parking.
tasting.
Fantastic. Hello. Good, thanks.
Would you like to try some wine today?
Yes, we would love to. What have you got for us?
We have the Keystone Grenache at the moment, which is a Shiraz Grenache blend from South Australia. How do you like that one?
Oh, yes, that's good. Try that one.
Next one is the Ashwood Grove Merlot.
Delicious, yes.
Which is quite smooth, very full-bodied.
What does that actually mean, full-bodied?
Yeah.
Does it mean pear-shaped?
Yes, it does.
Someone?
McPherson Shiraz. This is a very light style red. Very easy to drink.
Yeah, that's easy to drink, all right.
More freebies, more disguises, more free. Oh, hi, thank you very much. Got any free specials on at the moment?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes. We
Winner.
have the 7-day pass for a week. Anyone can come in and use it.
Yay.
Train for 7 days and see how they go. And we also have a 2-for-1 special, which is normally the 12-month membership, which is $420. So 2 people can have that for the price of one.
Oh, so 2 for 1. We don't like 2-for-1s, but we like the free thing for 7 days, don't we?
Fantastic. Swirl it around your palate and spit it out.
Yep.
And this one?
Next one's your Seafood Grenache. Very rustic, big style red wine from South Australia.
Sounds a bit American, rustic, big style red wine. Yeehaw.
Cowboys like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Cowboys like it, Steve?
Nice, not bad. Cowgirls like it too. Have a swig of that. Quick, get it down.
And this was free, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're going to pig out on falafels, then you have to be careful because, of course, each falafel has 3 grams of fat. So you don't want to be a fat freebie taker. You want to keep slim and trim, so, hey, why not have a grape? That's right. Delicious and keep you slim and trim.
Bloody, oh, falafel, thanks very much. Yum. Jacqueline?
Yes?
I got a full year's membership right here. I'm just going to come in every week for extra
You're
days.
going to look good.
Oh, work it out.
Very nice.
Oui.
Yes. Mixture of the Merlot and Cabernet blend.
After you, sir.
Oh, God. Good mouthful.
Oh, divine. Now, I've forgotten what that first one was. Can you take us through them again, please?
Oh, yeah.
Would you have another taste?
Your Tattachilla Keystone.
Ask you guys, have you ever just, helped yourself and just did a little taster?
Not big ones like that. No.
Not big ones.
You might taste a grape to make sure that they're sweet.
Yeah. And what else can you taste?
That's all.
Nuts?
No.
I didn't do nuts. What about a cherry? Have you done a cherry?
No, I did.
Cherry, yes.
Cherry for sure. Strawberry, I have done that.
Strawberry. Oh, you picked the
supermarkets.
Oh, supermarkets are okay, hey?
Right.
Why is that?
I don't know why, but I'm buying it at the end of the store.
You're paying for that one cherry or that strawberry?
I'm buying a punnet, but I want to know whether they're sweet or not.
So that's okay. That's a freebie.
What about a free makeover? So here I am, and Susanna's going to maybe walk on cloud 9. So do what you will. Make me feel like a million. At least 20.
Lovely morning. I'd love a falafel, thanks very much. How many of these do you give out in a day, roughly?
Maybe 200.
200? I'm halfway there. Not that you recognise my face at all, huh?
No, at all.
No, that's good.
I don't know you.
You don't know me, good. They never know. They catch on. We're stuffed now. We've probably saved about $4 falafel. Free, absolutely free.
Rightio. Let's do it all again. Just once more.
To any record store, because they've got these great facilities that you can come to, listen to the best of the music all day long. Just popping in a selection of CDs and away you go.
Do you find that people come in for a free makeover or because they're actually going to buy the products?
Usually because they're going to buy the product, like if
normally you're about to sort of try some foundation on someone or something like that just to get the colour right, and then you just, go a bit further. Not very many people will ever come in and say, can I have a free makeover, and just leave without anything. Right. So
Always the one. Going to buy that?
Oh no, not at all. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, we're going to read it, Steve. It's a pretty thick book. Bit small writing, not like this large as usual.
Another free thing to do in Melbourne. Come to one of these glamorous bookshops here, grab books, as many as you like, and you can sit in the stores and just sit and read and read and read all day long.
From cover to cover?
Cover to cover. These new bookshops have coffee shops, they have music, they have cakes, they have the lot.
We've got couches.
Couches.
Can you put your feet in the chair?
Right over there.
Okay, fantastic. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, we've got these 7-day free passes here, and I'm wondering how effective this 7-day free pass has been for you.
Oh, it's been pretty good. I'm on my 7th day now.
Fantastic, I'm on day 1, can't wait.
You too could have a body like this in just 7 days, you know that? You can be this big,
There's another one. Oh, that is amazing. That's
cheers,
full body.
cheers.
That is what I call. Let's go to karaoke. Let's go to karaoke. Mate, can I have a cigarette?
I suppose so.
Thank you very much.
I can give you more than that if you like.
Just cigarette, thanks.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Sorry, you'll have to take it out yourself.
Okay, thanks.
have a go, you've been here for ages and you've been in the store for about 4 hours. That's cool, man. Every hour, got to take your turn. What's fair is fair, mate. I know it's free and all.
You have to ask yourself the question, how many other people go past doing exactly what you are thinking of doing or what you're actually doing? Just one moment, I'll just ask this gentleman here, excuse me sir, have you ever pinched a grape and actually not paid for it, just in passing?
Yes.
Do you feel guilty about that?
If someone's watching.
And we saw you just briefly, so you're going to pay for that grape you ate?
No, I never tried a grape.
Oh, yeah, you can say that now, we've got it on camera.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Crikey, Steve, I thought you said it was for free. Look what I've got.
Oh,
Look what we've got.
It's free for an hour, not all day.
Yeah, well, you can have that.
I'll go your hard, so I'm walking.
You go that way, I'm going this way. You don't look pretty.
Jacqueline, you know what they say. Get what you pay for.
A little bit of Steven in my life, a little bit of Jack and two red spots. But I love free stuff. This is great. It'll be here all day. In fact, I think it will be. It's going to be all night.
Yeah, because, and then when...
excuse me, mate, have you got a cigarette?
Oh, look, I've given one away already, for Christ's sake.
What about you guys? You got a cigarette? Oh, cheers, thanks.
Yeah,
big box. Can I have 2 actually?
They're 2 in there. I don't know how to get
Oh, look, that's fine.
Okay. See you, mate.
Oh no, the book's upside down. Steve, can you move this book? Okay, get me down.
Really need a cigarette with anything menthol, whatever, Alpine Holiday, you name it, I'll smoke it.
Sorry, neither does smoke, and sorry about that.
What about the little one? Doesn't smoke? No, he hasn't taken it up yet.
That's it.
Excuse me? I'm just wondering, how many cigarettes do you tend to ask people for a week?
About a week.
Yeah. Or a day even?
Oh, a day about 10.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The 3 major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join the Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global, acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived.
There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "G'day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard. Most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
tickets to the lights.